Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Friday, December 19th, 2025, and you can see that there's a definite slowdown in the advance of the Russian forces, especially in the area where they were advancing the fastest in Guliapole. Um, and so it looks like the fall with the mud, the rain, the poor weather for moving vehicles, tanks, war machinery, etc., is in the most critical phase. So right now, very difficult to move anything. So neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians really are moving much. So the front line has slowed down, not exactly to a halt, but certainly the pace of the advances of the Russian forces has slowed down considerably. Plus, the Russian forces are tied down cleaning up the city of Guliapole. So, right now, what we're waiting for is the start of the winter campaign. So, the ground should be frozen in Ukraine sometime in early to middle January, and then the the Russian advance can start up again, so that the roads are and the fields can be transited. Right now, the vehicles. I did see a video of a fellow on a motorcycle, and he was going down these roads, and sometimes the road was okay, but when we get the mud and and the vehicles sink into the mud, then when that mud dries, then we get all these, the we get a very uneven road, and the motorcycles can't go very fast. This fellow had flopped over a few times with his motorcycle because either the wheel got caked on with mud, and so the it lost its steering, or it got caught in a rut and flopped over. So right now is not a time that either side can advance very well. So that also means that if the Ukrainians have military equipment and are very close to the front lines, and the Russians continue to advance, albeit slowly, that means that when they do have the possibility to leave, it's going to be difficult for them um, to to make a break for it, because the front has advanced while they were waiting for conditions to improve in the fields or on the roads. The Russians advanced enough to cover the to be able to see the roads and see what the fields and what's moving, and then to send out a drone if there's a Ukrainian that's retreating with a armored truck or with a tank or with a howitzer, etc. So anyway, this area where we can see here Guliapole up to Andriivka, in this whole area, the Russians were advancing quite a bit. Also, part of the problem is that there is a defensive line that the Russians need to get past. So they are trying to go around it. So here they are. The defensive line goes up pretty close to this salient. And so what they're trying to do is to come around that to the west and then come down towards these areas, because they're going to be very poorly defended. These are going to be territorial forces who are not who are lightly trained, and also who may not be in shape, may not have the necessary guns, bullets, what have you. So anyway, this is the situation currently that you can see is happening in most of the front line. The Russians are advancing a lot slower. The conditions are difficult, And so once the winter campaign starts up, we'll also probably have time for rotations. So this is a good time for the troop rotations. Um, and they're just going to hold the line, and the Ukrainians are going to try to defend the line. So if we go to another map here, and this is Divgen, you can also see the Russian advances, basically right up until that defensive line, and so little has changed over the last week or so in this area. The Russians have advanced in some areas, but mostly they're trying to get around the defensive line and then start to advance west. And also we have this other map, and you can see basically the same. That's the same map, so get rid of that. So anyway, we have the Russians trying to clean up here in Guliapole, and the Russians here, Tokmachka, over to Mali Sherbaki. This whole area is going to be pretty well covered by Ukrainians with drones. So the Russians are going to continue advancing west, but this just isn't a good time to advance. So we'll start to see advances start up again in January. And obviously the goal here is, you can see it, Zaporizhia. And so and you can ask, well, why are the Ukrainians advancing in Kupiansk if the conditions are so poor? Well, it appears that the conditions there between the natural landscape and covering, and possibly fog and other conditions that make it difficult for the Russians to see what's going on, and better conditions for moving over open fields and on roads means that the Ukrainians were able to move much more effectively there, but pretty soon they will be tied down as well, and also waiting for the winter campaign to start so that they can continue what they think that they can achieve. So anyway, I think that it's pretty fair to say that the Russian advances have slowed down. The winter, then the fall mud conditions have pretty much taken over, and the Russians are waiting for winter, when the ground is frozen, when they can move their vehicles and support across open fields and across roads without getting stuck in the mud, without getting slowed down. So we'll see that happen in, I would say, less than a month. So anyway, that is my report about the waiting for the winter campaign. And if you have any comments to make, please do so below. I will leave the links to the maps in the description. And if you could please like, share, and subscribe, I would appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching this video, and until the next one, bye-bye.